Rule number 67. The infinitive can serve as the subject of est or other similar verbs. We're going to be talking about infinitives starting with this rule, number 67, through rule 70. In brief, the infinitive is technically a noun that represents some action, and as a noun, it can serve as the subject or object of a verb. The infinitive differs from a noun in that it has tense and voice. Adverbs modify it. It can take an object like an accusative, and it only is used in certain circumstances. So an infinitive can't show possession, but it does function as the subject of a verb, which is what this video is about. Let's start with one of the most famous examples of this. Errare est humanum. To err is human. The infinitive here is errare, and it's functioning as the subject of est. You can see from the ending of humanum that the infinitive itself is in the neuter gender. Dolere malum est. To be in pain is an evil or bad. Often, the infinitive looks in English to not be the subject of est, even though it is, like in Horace's dulce et decorum est pro patria mori. It is sweet and proper to die for your country. It's correct to take mori as the subject of est, so dying or to die for your country is sweet and proper. English, by the way, loves to use the gerund, this ing form of the verb, in situations where Latin loves the infinitive. I think this just sounds better. And this rule also applies to verbs other than est, as in this bit from the Aeneid, after Neptune sees the damage from the storm in Book 1. Praestat componere fluctus. It is better to calm the waves, or calming the waves is better. In this sentence from Sallust, the infinitive facere, well, in fact, the whole phrase injuriam facere, is an apposition. That's rule number 1, by the way, with the subject here in green, id. Proinde quasi injuriam facere id demum esset imperio uti. Just as if this, and only this, to commit an injury, were to use power. And we can also have the infinitive in the predicate, that is after the est. Tempus est abire. It is time to leave. And let's play around with this sentence just a little bit. If I wanted to note that someone else should leave, like you've overstayed your welcome at my house and I want you gone, then the abire would have a subject in the accusative case. Tempus est te abire. Keep in mind this fact that subjects of infinitives are in the accusative case. It will be really helpful in a couple of rules. The infinitive is also used as the subject with a lot of impersonal verbs. Necesse est mori, it is necessary to die, where mori, to die, is functioning as the subject of necesse est. Or mihi placet exire, it pleases me to leave, or to leave pleases me. And pudet me dicere, it shames me to say, I'm ashamed to say, or even to say or saying shames me. This use with impersonals is really a development of the complementary infinitive, rule number 68 coming up, but it's so similar to the subjective use that it's easier to think of the infinitive as the subject rather than the complement. I have one last example. Non esse cupidum pecunia est. Wealth, that's pecunia, is to not be greedy. Here we have two forms of esse, one as the main linking verb of est, and the other as the infinitive esse in the predicate, so after the est. And the esse itself has a predicate adjective cupidum. Since the subject of an infinitive is in the accusative case, so must be any predicate. So cupidum is accusative and neuter, not nominative. And with multiple layers of predicates here, this can get pretty confusing. Okay, so let's get out of the weeds and go back to the basics of this rule. In summary, the infinitive is in effect a verbal noun in the neuter gender, and so it can be modified by a neuter adjective. As a noun, it can be the subject of a verb, usually est. But the infinitive still keeps some characteristics of verbs, in that it has tense and voice, is modified by an adverb, and can take an object. So now it's time to put to an end tempus est finire, rule number 67. The infinitive can serve as the subject of est or other similar verbs.